Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Don't you understand, George? It's because you were not born.
Film church.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Never leave your partner behind.
Hello, everyone. This is your co-host, Brandon here. Just popping in to say that this episode and the next few episodes will be a little bit different. Lewis is still in the middle of trying to move, so we have Zach on this episode. It's actually kind of one episode that we sat down and recorded, but it ended up being 3 hours long, so I split it up into 3 episodes to kind of give Lewis a little bit of extra time. So doing it a little bit different. Hope you enjoy. We'll be back soon for your regularly scheduled programming. And thanks for being here. On with the show. Welcome to Film Church Radio, the podcast that trash talks cinema. And this special episode.
We are haters.
Film haters. This week we were supposed to do a special episode with Zach coming in as our guest to talk about a film, but we are postponing at least a week, maybe more, to help Lewis get settled in back home with his move. So Lewis isn't here this episode.
That's right. He's in London, England.
Yes. Or Nottingham, England, I think.
Nottingham, England.
Yeah, so since the priest isn't here, we can get all sacrilegious on this episode and talk about movies we hate. So Zach is here with us, or with me, with us spiritually and physically, to talk about movies we hate, and then hopefully next week we'll have Lewis back to sing praises to cinema. But yeah, there's no structure to this. I didn't do any planning. I had a quick look at my lowest rated films on Letterboxd, but that was about it. So we'll see where this kind of goes.
I put a little bit of thought into this.
Okay, nice.
I did make a little private letterbox list just called hate. I did manage to pare it down to 10 films, but I don't even know if I hate all these movies.
Yeah.
Or there's different levels of hate. I also want to apologize to the listeners about my voice because I'm recovering from an illness. So it's not good business in the podcast anymore.
Yeah.
To get sick, but I'm trying my best.
You got possessed by that film demon.
Exactly. So since there's no structure here, I was just wondering, what does it take for you to hate a film? What does it mean for you to hate a film?
Yeah, that's a good question because I don't know if I actually do hate any movies. It's like there's definitely disappointments.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's definitely like movies that I've gone to see and just left feeling devastated. Feeling like your best friend like screwed you over.
Okay.
And that, that doesn't necessarily bring a feeling of hate, but it's just, overwhelming disappointment.
Well, because hate is a very specific emotion because as I was trying to think, what films do I hate? There are a lot of films that I don't like.
Yeah.
Or that I'm indifferent to, but I don't think about them ever. It's more of a I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
And it never crosses my path again. Maybe it does years later, and I'm like, oh, let me check that out again. No, I still don't like it. Or maybe I changed my mind. I don't know. But hating a film, it's not just disliking it. It's like thinking about it, stewing over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to figure out what were they thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's probably a few Mel Gibson films like that.
See, I'm a Mel Gibson fan.
No, I know.
Well,
I was just.
I guess as a director.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
He's in a lot of schlocky, direct to streaming action movies that don't look too. They look like a waste of my time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what is that new movie that's out that's like the QAnon movie?
Yes, Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, The Sound of Freedom. Like I haven't seen that, but I've been thinking about going to see it just so I can, just so I can know. You know what I mean?
Well, so first of all, I'm not going to name that film in my hated list because I haven't seen it. But I do have a film on my list that might have some sort of crossover with that in terms of audience.
Yeah.
So we can get to that later.
We can get to it. Yeah.
You might be able to get into that for free. I hear that people are like buying tickets, like buying out whole theaters. I don't know if that means you can just like go and like get a free seat, but
yeah, I don't know. It's making money though. I mean, it's making a profit. Is there any movies on your list that did give you that feeling of disappointment that I kind of described?
Yes. And I would say it has less to do with like my expectations as like, say, a fan of a particular director or an actor. Well, actually one of them is a disappointment kind of in that regard, but a couple of them are more films that are acclaimed, where I don't quite get it.
Yeah.
I don't get the acclaim. But there are a lot of movies like that I don't hate. And there are a couple where these have kind of crossed over into the hatred, which actually I think has something to do with it, because I think part of what makes you hate a movie is not just the film itself, but also maybe your expectations, but also some sort of external aspect of it, like the way that it's talked about, the way that other people receive it.
Yeah.
And you sort of develop a hate for it because
it's like overrated. Or
I don't even know if I like the word overrated or underrated, but I guess it is a measurement of part of that hatred comes from kind of getting mad that people are responding to it positively.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? No, this is terrible. and you start thinking about it and stewing over it more because of that.
Yeah. So do you want to just like go back and forth? I have about 6 films, but then like, we can also go take a look at the lowest rated movies on Letterboxd and IMDb.
Sure. My list is kind of like front loaded with the ones that I really hate, and it kind of tapers off.
Okay. Well, let's start with that. Let's just tell me.
With the front loaded?
Yeah.
Okay. So the most recent film on my list is a movie called Loquisha.
Okay.
It is an independent comedy that came out in 2019, and I kind of wanted to avoid talking about recent films.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like not really interested in trash talking people who are currently working, who I admire or don't, whether I admire them or not. I kind of wanted to stick to stuff that the dust is settled. But Loquisha is a mind-bogglingly offensive film.
Yeah.
It is written, produced, directed by edited by and starring a comedian named Jeremy Seville. And he's kind of like a down on his luck. I think he's a bartender. And somehow he imitates a sassy black woman. I guess like maybe he calls into a radio station imitating a sassy black woman giving someone advice, and the listeners love her. So he becomes a celebrity by imitating a sassy black woman named Loquisha. And things get difficult when they need to actually find a face for Loquisha. Like, she needs to start making appearances at places. So now he has to like cast an actor and get her to like be in on the scheme with him. So obviously, like, the premise is already, you're just like, oh, that's terrible. Like that's like, if I thought of this premise like as an intrusive thought while I was in the shower, I would never tell anybody. And this guy made a movie.
Yeah. Just putting it all out there.
I'm not alone in my assessment of it. It has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's now kind of like a frequent film on worst movies ever made. Besides like the obvious problems with the premise, is it's just a cheaply made film.
Yeah.
A part that sticks out is two characters are talking, and they specifically refer to their phones as iPhones. But you don't hear the word iPhone, you hear smartphone. And it's like a badly inserted ADR of the word smart. Because I guess they realized that they may have some sort of like legal trouble if they say iPhone. So you can see their mouths saying iPhone, and you hear this horrible ADR of smartphone. And I mean, that's just one example. Like, the filmmaking is amateurish. It's really bad. The movie only got any kind of recognition because the trailer went viral, and people were like, this is terrible. You know, you should have kept this in the drafts. Now, thankfully, you know, it's not a widely seen film. It's going to be forgotten. So it's not going to have too negative an impact on culture. But I watched it out of curiosity and was just... It's just one of those things where you're kind of like, why did you waste all these people's time making this film?
I mean, sometimes people do that. That like they kind of see the viral potential because of how controversial it comes across.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, it is controversial, you know. So, and to some degree, the dude was right because the trailer went viral, right? But you know,
it's short-lived viral fame now.
Exactly. It's like, what did you gain from that? Like, you know, you didn't get. I don't know. Like, I wonder if he grew his audience because of that, maybe, you know, for the terrible people that are out there that, you know, think that kind of thing is funny, or I don't know.
I don't know. If anything, it feels like he ruined any chance he had of like getting maybe a more mainstream film in the pipeline down, you know, because he did basically do everything. He wrote it and produced it and directed it,
right,
edited it and all that, and there's, you got to give someone some credit, I guess, for doing all of that, and actually being able to get the film made. But it just, to me, it just, I have to believe that he burned too many bridges. Not even burning bridges, just, you know, I would look at that and never want to work with the guy.
Yeah. Well, it's another thing too. It's like you can make movies about like terrible characters, but you know, It sounds like the movie was not self-aware.
No, I mean
It's like done in
that's the other
bad
thing.
taste.
Yeah, and I mean, because that's a premise that there's probably some comedy writer out there who could take that premise and actually make something smart out of it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but this is not it.
Yeah. Well, a movie that came to mind when I was thinking of terrible movies is a 2020 film. And I don't like talking about newer films either, but what the hell? We're doing it. Spencer Confidential, starring Mark Wahlberg, is so bad. It's so bad.
I had um, to think for a second. I was like, I've never heard of this. And then you said starring Mark Wahlberg. And I'm like, no, I have heard of that. I watched it.
You did watch it? It was so bad. It just like, first of all, changed the name. Like
Yeah.
what? Like Spencer like the movie is like trying to be, I know it's based on a book or whatever, but it's like trying to be I don't know. It's like trying to be The Town, the Ben Affleck movie. Like or it's trying to be like a Martin Scorsese film
But
or something.
isn't it like a comedy?
It's sort of, but it's not. I don't think that's the thing. Is it didn't like there was no. It felt like there was no direction. It seemed like it was supposed to be serious with some jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a Martin Scorsese film or like any
Yeah.
good drama, you've got a little bit of comedy.
Right.
But it was like trying way too hard to be cool.
Yeah.
Unless the whole thing is supposed to be a parody, but I didn't get the sense that it was.
I mean, I don't know. I remember watching it because I think I was trying to like catch up on the films from that director, Peter Berg, who directed it. And I've still only seen 2 of his movies. I guess because I've seen Friday Night Lights he directed, and he directed a movie called Patriots Day, which is like about the Boston marathon bombers.
Oh,
Which
right, yeah.
on paper seems like a movie that I would hate, but I actually really enjoyed it. Like it stars Mark Wahlberg, of course, and it's real schlocky, but like it's well done in enough of a way that made me like go, oh no, I enjoyed that. That kind of made me tear up at the end. So he's a competent filmmaker. But like this movie looks nothing like anything else he's made.
Yeah.
Like visually, it's like a flat, bland. Well, it's a Netflix film, and
Yeah.
it looks like a TV movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Also has Post Malone in it. Winston Duke, Alan Arkin. Like,
rest in peace, Alan Arkin.
Yeah.
Just passed away.
Yeah.
Winston Duke is a great actor.
Yeah, he is a very good actor. Yeah, it's just a flop. It's just like one of those movies that people like. I don't know, like Netflix just throws money at things, and I feel like getting a film produced by Netflix is almost, especially if you're already an established director and you're working with Mark Wahlberg, they're just going to give you free reign to do anything. They're going to be like, we trust you. Here's all the money. Whereas, like, sometimes you need a hardcore producer to be like, let's do another rewrite of the script. Or, hey, maybe Spencer Confidential is a terrible name for an action movie. Like,
yeah, it is definitely like you say, when established filmmakers get a deal with Netflix, those are usually the Netflix films that are tolerable, that are watchable, you know?
Yeah. Well, when
Um,
you're talking about like Martin Scorsese or like, you know,
yeah, but like, I don't know. Who's a,
I just wonder
well,
like what the heck
yeah,
happened? Like who, like at what
no,
point were they like, you know?
no, I agree with you because, um, again, Peter Berg is a competent filmmaker, and this feels very below what he is capable of delivering. And it seems strange that he would direct this film with the freedom that he presumably got with Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, um, when you get that freedom, I kind of expect it to be like a hidden gem. You know, you're sort of back pocket, like, oh, I've always wanted to make this movie, and I have a hard time believing that this is the case for anyone with this film.
Yeah. And the thing with these movies, like sometimes, sometimes you can have a good bad movie,
Hmm.
but I think the movies we're
I
talking about on this episode are just bad. Like, not there's not a situation where you know it's going to turn into The Room, you know, and people are going to love to sit around watching a terrible movie. It's like
right.
just all around terrible,
Yeah, I think this
which
was
is
supposed.
hard for me to say. It's hard for me to just you know
Well, and I think this
be
was
so.
supposed to. I think this was supposed to like spawn a franchise.
That's what it felt like at the end, because I think there's like a series of books or whatever.
Yeah, it is. Um, yeah, because some of these Netflix has sort of done a few films where it feels like they're trying to set up like, oh, they're gonna milk this,
Yeah.
and then I assume the movie's a flop. Not that not that they release those numbers, but Bright was supposed to be a big thing for them, and we haven't seen any continuation of that either.
Oh, I
Um,
don't think there's gonna be at this point now
no,
with
no,
Will
no, there
Smith.
won't. There won't. But I can't. I don't know. I
Well, yeah,
can't.
I mean they're trying to create IP. You know, they're trying to. That's the whole thing. They're trying to build universes with all these things, and you know, have a, you know, get a cash cow, which isn't a bad thing to have. You know, if you're a studio, you gotta, you know, you gotta have your things that make you the big money. Um, and then hopefully with that you're willing to take some losses, or take some risks by you know giving money to people who are trying to create art or you know art films or you know express ideas and be experimental. um,
Well,
but
I can't even find a budget for this movie.
yeah, it's getting harder to find stuff like that, but also there's paywalls now. It's like before on IMDb you could just you know, see what the budget was on things, and now you have to have IMDb Pro if you want to look at
Well,
it
yeah, IMDb has also been like a completely non-functional website for like the last decade.
in terms
Well,
of like
I-
being updated
Uh,
or just like glitchy.
as a user experience, it's so ugly, and I don't know where to find anything. Um, like, let me just pull it up here. Like, I think there might be a way to like actually convert it into classic mode. It used to be a more text-based website,
Yeah,
and now it's just cluttered in images and ads and videos.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, I'm scrolling through the front page right now, and it's like, as a person, I don't want to look at this, so I'm clicking it to close. But yeah, it used to be much easier to find all of that on an IMDb page for a film. Like it was more text based and not like image based, and it was laid out in a nice, clean fashion. And
Yeah.
I think Amazon bought them and changed the layout, and it's just been. I prefer not to go there.
The one thing I do like about Amazon Prime when you watch movies is that you have like the actors and stuff.
Yeah, I
and
do enjoy that.
and that are just available during the scene. But that's also a double-edged sword, because then you're looking up shit while you're watching the movie instead of watching the movie.
I usually don't. So it's okay. I never. That's one of those things that never successfully got distracted, or that never successfully distracted me.
Yeah.
But when I pause a movie, you have like the headshots of all the actors
Yeah.
popping up that are in that scene.
Yeah. All right. So what's next on your list?
So this is where the crossover with what was that movie called? Sound of Freedom might come in.
Okay.
And maybe you have more experience with this film than I do. I don't know. I have not seen too many Christian evangelical films.
Uh-huh.
But one that I have seen multiple times is Fireproof, directed by Alex Kendrick, and written with his brother, who I don't know if they still have this. It seemed like for a period in the 2000s and 2010s, they were the guys making Christian films.
Yeah.
Because they were making films independently in, I think, Georgia is like where they're based.
Yeah, Albany, Georgia, I think.
They were making independent films that actually looked like movies. Like maybe they're not perfect, but there was a sheen of professional production value to their work, as far as I understood it. Enough that you might trick a non-evangelical into watching it, and they might get to a certain point where before they realize, they might get far enough into the film before they realize, oh, this is an evangelical Christian thing.
Yeah. Oh, this is propaganda.
Right.
But I'm already invested. Are you telling me you don't love the part when he smashes the computer with a baseball bat because of his porn addiction?
I actually love that part. Maybe it's like I said, I haven't watched a whole lot of evangelical Christian films, so I kind of use Fireproof as like the text of what I assume.
Oh well, it's definitely the height of Christian films. I mean, this is a movie that was made for $500,000 and made $33.5 million.
Hey, when church groups go to see a movie, they go to see a movie. they fill it. They fill that theater.
They come in flocks. Plus, there's a whole network of Christian news and radio, and
so that's part of it too. Is it like this is a movie that has like a built-in it's like a built-in marketing for
exactly.
It's for their marriage counseling bullshit. Like there's a book in the movie like proof your marriage. That's a real book. That they are selling.
No, if you want to guarantee that people will go see your movie, convince every preacher in America to tell you to go see it, to tell their churches to go see it, and you'll make money.
Like Sound of Freedom. Very important movie. This important movie too, because excuse me. Because
why?
You might have to do some editing.
We must know.
This is an important movie because it is about the state of marriage in America. And this, this is a film that will save millions of marriages. I think I'm frustrated by the fact that the two lead characters are seemingly not evangelical Christians. or Christian at all. They seem to just be secular people, but they I don't believe them as that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
uh,
no, they're not they're not normal people.
like they behave like evangelical Christians, except that I was going to say except he's got a porn addiction, but actually I guess I'm sure millions of evangelical men watch porn. Um, that's the other thing is it's just like this very unrealistic portrayal. Not that I'm going to the film for realism, but its lack of realism is frustrating to such a degree that it gets me fuming when I have watched this movie.
Yeah.
It feels like an unrealistic portrayal of trouble in marriage, of infidelity, or almost infidelity, because the wife has a coworker who treats her right, and she's kind of flirting with the idea of maybe she'll, you know, maybe I married the wrong guy, and this is the guy that I should have been with.
Yeah.
A very unrealistic portrayal of probably of porn addiction.
Yeah.
It's but I also the movie has to be a PG movie, right? So
Yeah.
you can't show a realistic portrayal of porn addiction at that level. And I just, it gets me steamed up at how just frustrating these characters are and the story is.
Yeah, it's like the filmmaker. It feels like the filmmakers have actually never talked to someone who is not a
Mhm.
Christian, or spent any, or has any friends who aren't Christian, or actually, truly know someone.
Right.
Um, it's just their idea of what a non-Christian would be like, which
Yeah.
is inaccurate. Yeah, no, this movie. Yeah, I think it was released in cinemas, of course,
Mhm.
but it also, I don't think it premiered, but it did screen at the San Antonio Independent Christian Film Festival.
Okay.
The year that I went, well, I went 2 different years, but
Okay.
I went the year that it was there, and it was all the rage.
Mhm.
Kirk
Well,
Cameron was there.
that's the other thing is Kirk Cameron he's a real actor,
Yeah.
or he was.
Well, yeah. I mean, he acted with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
That gives him some credit, some
yeah, exactly.
street cred.
Exactly. Yeah, this definitely was the peak for these filmmakers. Alex Kendrick and Stephen Kendrick, the Kendrick brothers.
Right.
And they had built, they had made, I think this was their third film. So they had made like a super low budget film that was funded by their church.
Mhm.
It's not surprising. It's not that impressive.
Right.
When you're talking about raising the money for a film, if you're going to make a Christian film, you can convince, like, there's churches have so much money. It's not that impressive for a church to be like, yeah, let's pay for a film.
Mhm.
You know, it is completely out of touch, obviously, but I'm not going to say that, like, I don't necessarily think the filmmakers are bad people or anything. They're just
Right.
completely out of touch. But I did, I mean, I was 18 when this movie came out, and
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
was I considered myself a Christian filmmaker when this came out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie, and um when it came out.
Mhm.
I haven't probably watched it and since then, but or maybe a couple times, but like yeah, Kirk Cameron was there. I got a picture with him.
Oh.
I got a picture with Alex Kendrick, the director.
Mhm.
Um and then me and my dad went to like CVS or somewhere and printed it out, and then ran into him again and got him to sign it. So I have a signed picture with Alex Kendrick from when this movie came out at the San Antonio Independent Christian Film Festival, which fell apart because the guy who headed the film festival cheated on his wife. Isn't that ironic? But yeah, and he was all about this movie too, and
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, did it save marriage? I mean, it's been 15 years since it came out. How's marriage doing in America?
I don't
Is it
know.
still 50-50? Probably.
I think so. More people might be watching porn,
Than
thanks to
ever before.
the evolution of technology. I also just want to say, because I'm not, like I said, I didn't grow up around evangelical culture, um, and I grew up in a pretty secular house. Religion wasn't really a thing, but I still have a spiritual side, and throughout history of film, there have been many movies that I would describe as Christian films. I would not describe them. I would not uh, uh, group them with Fireproof or movies of this ilk, because rather than being preaching to the choir, they're films about spiritual connection or finding transcendence or God in the world. Um, and I connect to those movies despite not being Christian or having a Christian upbringing and not being very religious. I can still uh, relate to that in a movie where that is something that's happening. And it feels to me like in Fireproof, there is no real spiritualism. There is no transcendence. I feel no sense of like, a higher power or a reason to be, a reason for life or whatever in this movie.
Yeah.
This is like a version of Christianity that is just um, a a secluded part of the world, a secluded part of the country, really, looking at itself on a movie screen, basically.
Yeah, or it's. I mean, I think more likely what it is a. It's just a a sermon on screen.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it is.
But
It's
a sermon where I don't feel like closer to God listening to it.
yeah, it's just someone preaching at you. It's not
Right,
like, it's not someone trying to relate to you or like welcome you with open arms or say,
right,
or whatever. It's just preaching at you,
right.
which everybody has experienced that. Even if
Yeah.
you are a Christian and do experience spirituality in church, you've definitely
Hmm.
gone to some churches where you're being preached at and you're like, this is not for me.
Right.
But it did connect with a lot of people. I mean, it
This
made
this is true.
a
This is
buttload of money. Um, I would hope that they just, use that money to, gave all that money to God basically and used it to help other people. But I don't know. I don't know.
They used it to make Courageous their follow-up film.
Well, yeah, they made courage. I mean, they're still making movies. I mean, I just looked at it, but they definitely peaked here.
Yeah, and
I
it's interesting because this is also like their breakthrough, right? This is kind of like Fireproof stretched a little bit outside of their bubble.
yeah, exactly. Where a
Kind
lot
of-
a lot of other people went to see it.
Right.
Yeah. Um, yeah. The guys kind of leading the Christian filmmaking now are the Irwin brothers. I don't know
Do
if
I know them?
you probably have heard of some of their films. Let me pull them up real quick because
Oh,
they've
see.
they've also worked with some big name actors, and I've met these guys too. Their recent film was Jesus Revolution.
Okay.
I mean, these
Yeah.
these movies get released in cinemas.
Yes.
The Jesus Music, American Underdog, I Still Believe, I Can Only Imagine. Woodlawn,
Mom's Night Out.
Mom's Night Out.
I remember this movie coming out because I don't think this was. Maybe I'm mixing up with something else, but because I don't think that this was like advertised as a faith-based film. Like you would see the trailer for it and just be like, "Oh, it's a comedy."
Well, and it's before Bad Moms as well, and it has the Bad Moms font, which is weird because Bad Moms was huge. I mean,
that's what
Bad Moms was a smash hit at the cinemas.
Right.
Mom's Night Out. I don't know how well it did, but it's got Sean Astin in it.
I saw that.
Speaking of which, would you consider? It's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but would you consider Rudy like a kind of a Christian film, like a spiritual film? I can't remember how much God plays into it. I feel like there's a lot of prayer in it, though.
Probably is, but that is probably. I feel like that's more of just a college football thing, and it's Notre Dame, right? Which is a Catholic university.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, like, I would say that Rudy probably does have. I have not seen that movie in like 20 years, maybe.
Well, also, what's the Blind Side? That's another one.
Yeah,
that's another one that's like
No, but see, those are movies that are not expressly evangelical films, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Blind Side is not,
but it has a huge evangelical audience. Yeah,
and I don't know about that character, but I think that it's like a Hollywood movie that is actually dipping into the world of people who are evangelical or who know evangelical, the South, and imbuing that like inspirational aspect of the story into it, but trying to color it in such a way that audiences who are not Christian will go and see it because we love Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
And not feel like they're being preached at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's interesting about I don't know, this is just a random thought, but like a non-Christian and a Christian is well, I don't know if I should say this. This probably isn't true, but it's probably more common for a non-Christian to know someone like the Sandra Bullock character, like to know someone that's like an evangelical Christian and be friends with them, than for a Christian person to do the same with someone who isn't in that circle. But there are definitely exceptions, so what do I know? But I do want to say, I know my dad listens to this show. I do want to say I do appreciate my dad taking me to that film festival, and I do cherish that part of my life, even though I'm not in that world anymore.
Well, it's part of your life. It's part of your history. It's part of your evolution as a filmmaker.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
a fan. So, I mean, that it's nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I just know my dad listens to the show. I want him to know I love him and I appreciate everything he did. So,
I mean, the story about getting the picture, then printing out a copy, and then bumping into the guy again. And getting the autograph. That's a good story.
It's pretty epic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I got to meet a lot of these people. I mean, the Irwin brothers, I went to their they had a I think they advertised it there at the film festival because they came to one of the panels and they were like, "Hey, we're they hadn't made a feature film yet, but they were like, we're doing like this week-long film school here in Alabama, or it was in Birmingham, yeah, and we're doing this week-long film school. They had done a lot of like high-end music videos for the big Christian artists like Michael W. Smith and
Gotcha.
they were like the go-to Christian music video guys. But they loved film, and that's what they wanted to get into. And then it is kind of cool that's what they're very successful now. I mean, Mom's Night Out was budget of $5 million, they made $10 million. They doubled their money, and I think they work with Providence or something like that. It's a division of Sony Films that does these faith-based movies. Yeah.
Gotcha. Because there's always like a lot of them end up having a couple of actors that
Yeah, I mean, they're very smart filmmakers. I mean, other like Hollywood should be taking a look at these guys because like you don't need to spend $300 million. Spend $5 million and double your money, or quadruple your money, or you know what I mean, like
right. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with Tyler Perry, who so many people doubted that guy, still doubt the guy, and it's like he's built an empire basically. His films, maybe some of them have not done as well as others, but like it's like consistently making movies that make money, that has an audience, people go and see him. Now he has his own studio in Atlanta. Like, I mean, it's the fact that people kind of that Hollywood maybe doesn't follow examples from these filmmakers is it's a blind spot on their part, because clearly these are filmmakers who know they're filling in a gap in the market that Hollywood doesn't cater to.
All right, y'all. That's it for this week. We will continue this discussion next week in part 2. Hope you enjoyed. You can find us on all the social media platforms at Film Church Radio, and you can find Lewis and I individually on Letterboxd. I am at Selmanscope, and Lewis is at Walker Lewis 3007. Yeah, you can keep up with what Lewis has been watching, what I've been watching, because we log our films daily. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Please come back next week to hear the rest. I'm going to give you a little teaser of next week's episode now. But yeah, amen.
Moving on from Fireproof. We just talked like a while about that, but there's a lot to talk about. We're going to continue to get sacrilegious here. So
we really were getting sacrilegious there.
Yeah, we really were. Okay, so one of the big movie disappointments that I had was a series of films. The third one is the one that I would rip apart the most.
Okay.
But seeing the first one, it just left this huge disappointment, and letdown for me the first time I saw it. It's better to me now when I go back and watch it, the first and the second one, but the third one is just kind of unwatchable. It's the Hobbit movies.